Hello everybody. I would like to welcome you. It's my pleasure to welcome you to this space, to this program. It has been a while since it's been in the workings, but now here we are. I would also like to welcome Romana Ercegovic to the program, a special guest for today. And so here we are, and my first show. And firstly, I would like to sort of tell you a little bit more about myself. My name is Alexis Sersha. Some of you know me as Alex. Most of the people know me as Alex as well, so I'm okay with Alexis or Alex. So my human story basically is I was born in Slovenia next to the forest. So I grew up in a forest. Then at 1989, I left Slovenia, lived in London for a couple of years, moved to Asia. Then after that, I ended up in Sydney, Australia. It just happened that way. I ended up there. I love it here. And then after that, I have moved up here to Cairns, where I've made my second home. I have two homes. And during that time, a lot of things have happened. While I was in Sydney, I've worked. I got a job in Blavatsky Lodge in a bookstore there. It was in the early 90s where sort of all of the new age has happened. I sort of grew up a little bit. We didn't have any ideas. It was a Catholic society. We didn't have any new ideas about any other sort of religions, any spirituality. So when I discovered spirituality in my early 20s, I thought, wow, I was in heaven. And I've explored everything. It was also a great time for meeting all the different people. I've met astrologists. I did astrology. I've met, the authors would come to our bookshop and they signed all books. We got free tickets. It was the time when Marianne Williamson was doing workshops, Louise Hay, Wayne Dwyer. I remember the time when Celestine Prophecy came out and people would come to our shop and just buy 10 books for all their friends. It was the time of Alchemist. So for a few years, I sort of did a lot of courses. I did all the healings, and inside of me, I had a big wound and I had a lot of pain. I was very, very sensitive child. I found this reality quite painful. It was actually quite damaging to me, and I tried to heal myself. I tried to sort of, heal that pain, and I just couldn't, because as you all know, it was very mental. So at that time, then I decided to sort of go into the real world. So when I moved to Cairns, I worked in tourism for a long time, adventure. I thought that will bring me healing. It didn't. Then in the 30s, I thought money would bring me healing. It didn't. I sort of did a lot of investing. I played with real estate, renovations, things like that. It didn't. Then I went into helping professions. I worked in some government projects where I worked with, disadvantaged. I worked in mental health also. I worked in suicide prevention. I became a musician also for a few years. So I thought that maybe that will bring me healing and happiness. I sort of basically exhausted all of the different channels, but I did have a lot of fun on the way. So until, of course, a few years ago when the awakening happened, I have tried everything to try to heal myself, to try to make myself happy. But I did have great times, and I also had times of great sadness. I've lost some family members to alcohol. My whole family from early years fell apart. So there were quite a lot of different themes that were running throughout my life. I've known depression, I've known addictions, I've tried out all the different things. So I threw myself in all the different, human experiences that I could, until, of course, the awakening happened. And then I guess my soul took over a bit. Well, it always did direct me. But during the awakening times, I found out that my eternal self, my soul, or some people call master self, actually had a name, Mikael. And we have been working for the last few years to, working on our relationship together, because my human self, as you can imagine, was very upset with her life, with the situation. And I had war inside of myself. I had a lot of pain. I had a lot of discomfort. I was actually a lot of hatred towards different parts of me. And so it took quite a few years to heal, but now here we are. We have a relationship. We are dancing together. We are walking together. And yeah, so Mikael would like to also say a few words. He's very present here. And greetings, dear ones. We are Mikael, and we would like to demonstrate just how easy it is for us to step forward and to have experience with you and to speak with you in this way. There is no deep breathing required. No meditation is required. We just step forward and Alex steps back. And this is how it is throughout the day. We do not introduce ourselves. We just, from different situations, we step forward and then we step back, and it's just a dance throughout the day. And we enjoy the life, we enjoy the sensuality of it, and we are very excited to invite you to this space. And we are very excited also with so many of you, because you are stepping into your own sovereignty. And also we are excited because for the first time in the human history, in these times, we can also introduce ourselves as Mikaela, and she is also very present today. Humanity has known us mostly from a male part, because this is the part that you mostly related to within ourselves. But we also have a very strong feminine part. Of course, we don't have a gender, as you know, but we do have a masculine, feminine part, as each and every one of you do. And we are glad that we can actually play with you and expand our relationship with you in this way, and relate with you in so many more of our parts, and that we can relate with the world that you live in, and that we live in, and that we exist in, and that we breathe in, with so many of our different parts, that there is this kind of flow of us. We sometimes come without a gender, sometimes we come with a gender, meaning not a good translation. Sometimes we come as masculine, sometimes we come as a feminine, and we relate to the world in this way. It's a dance, and we just flow like water. So we see a bird, we come as a feminine, we come as a masculine. It's a joy to us to be constantly in this movement. And sometimes we come with no gender at all. And of course, when we talk about masculine and feminine, we speak about the parts that every human being has, regardless of whether they've been born, what gender they've been born in. As you know, whether they're male or female, everybody has a masculine and feminine part, and they're expressing it in different ways, and they're expressing it in more or less restrictive ways, we would say. So that is why it is our joy to notice that so many of you are so much more free with every part of yourself, and that you are allowing every part of yourself to find expression in this way. Okay, so now we will step back and bring in our special guest for today, which is Romana Ercegovic. Romana, are you there?
Hello.
Okay.
Can you see me? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can see you, and I can hear you. So it is my pleasure to have you here today with us, and that you've said yes to this, and that we can interact with this in this way as well. Since we've been friends now for quite a while, and when we get together on Skype, we end up talking for a few hours. What was our last conversation? For 4 hours, over 4 hours, wasn't it? And we haven't really discussed much. So I was wondering whether you could just start about telling us about yourself a little bit.
Yes, I would like first to thank you, Alex, for such a beautiful introduction, and I would like to thank you for inviting me as your guest in your first historical show, which will probably have like thousands of more. So, and I would like to, of course, say hello to all the guests. Introducing myself. Oh, this is quite heavy task you're giving to me.
I know. I was thinking about how, there are so many stories within stories, aren't there? And depending on her story you tell, whether you tell the story from a perspective of the soul or highest, or a human self.
Yes.
Yeah. But anyway, I'm sure you will find your words.
Yes. Well, I'm coming from Slovenia, and I work mostly. My work is as an artist, as a theater artist. I'm kind of my passion is to connect theater with soul, like soulful expression of creativity. So I call my theater that I have been doing for 17 years, I call it sacred theater. The reason why I call it that way is not that I don't consider everything sacred, because I think that everything is sacred in a way, but somehow this means to me that I'm particularly interested in being aware that through theater we can, or through art we can show that some things are sacred, that we are sacred, that the nature is sacred, that every moment in our life is sacred. And because I believe that things become sacred when we are actually aware of their sacredness. And the same thing is with ourselves. We are always sacred beings, divine beings, but only when we actually are conscious about it, then then the sacredness become present. And for me, theater and also art as itself, but since my passion is particularly theater, I find theater such a beautiful tool for bringing this vibrations to life, to touch this beauty inside of me, and to touch the beauty inside of people. And it's always such a magic to see how we can create this space where we suddenly become aware of this beauty that is always around us, but somehow we just you just sometimes need a moment. Oh, it's there. It's like nature. It's always so beautiful, but sometimes we just don't see it, the beauty of nature. And it's just about this perception that is changed during the, let's say, performance or during a story. This perception that becomes more wide, more open. That's this was, and it wasn't really an introduction of what my life is about, but maybe what my passion is. And this is truly my passion to touch the things and be aware of how beautiful they are, and touch people and make them aware how beautiful they are. And this is this is maybe who I am.
Yes, Well, what you are describing, this coming from a smaller view to a more expanded view, is how I experience when Mikaela comes in to the forefront, and the whole it has to be experienced. You know, people have to experience it to really know how it is. But for me, what happens is all of a sudden, all of my awareness just expands. Everything becomes more vivid, but it's not all just that. There is just the depth of everything, like you said, the beauty of everything. So here we are again, Mikaela, and we would like to explain how we perceive the world, your world, our world, that we create together. So when we step forward, we step into every cell allows us in, and every cell expands into a lot of different dimensions. And for example, you have a human being who walks the beach, and then we come in, we come to the forefront, and we talk with everyone, with everything. For us, everything is alive. And we can feel every part, every element at the same time. So when the waves slowly come in and touch our skin on the feet, we actually extend all of our senses. So we interact with the water, we hear the water, we smell the water with our feet, we taste the water with our feet. Our feet do not just, our skin doesn't just feel the touch, and the water interacts with us, and it tells us of its depth, it tells us of where it's been, it portrays all, which we communicate, and it tells us of all the thousands of years that it actually traveled through the caverns of the depths of the earth, and then when it came out into the sun, or parts of it, and then it changed into the clouds. It tells us of every person, every being, every fish, every animal it caressed and touched. It keeps memories. And the same is with grains of sand. When we touch, when our feet touch and we walk on the grains of sand, they tell us the whole history. They can actually portray how, you know, the generation of reef creatures that were building it, and then with time they eroded and they became these little grains of sand that traveled with the water, they traveled with the ocean and created this beach. So, and it's the same with the wind. The wind talks to us, it tells us how it was actually playing with maybe your hair when it actually swept through Slovenia, and then it moved to the other side of the world, and it tells the story, and it has a lot of different experiences along the way, and it keeps all its memories. And the skin is just so vibrant and alive, and it communicates with all of the parts of life, with the sun rays and its photons of being. So this is the experience that the human can actually have when the eternal self is present. And I can hear you, this is how you're describing your own theater experience. So when you actually step into that being, your eternal self comes to the forefront, everything just changes, all of the perceptions just change, and you actually don't have enough words to say. And I would like to also ask you at this time, take the opportunity, because you actually wanted to speak about Isis and your connection, and you've just actually been on a trip to France where you visited her temples. Look.
Yes, this is one of other important things in my life, which is not maybe so, no, I don't speak about it a lot. Maybe this is opportunity when I will tell you some secrets that I haven't revealed before, but yes, this is something very important in my life, and this is like visiting very ancient temples. And these temples, particularly the temples of the sacred feminine, which I connect with goddess Isis. And now I just came back a few weeks ago from France, where we were visiting the places that are connected to Mary Magdalene. But particularly to me was such an important for me was to come to visit the place that is now known as René de Chateau. I felt there already when we were coming closer to this place. I was feeling the earth was radiating differently, and the place itself is so radiating with this sacred feminine. Sometimes it's difficult to find the words for this feelings, but yes, there definitely is. This place is connected with the goddess Isis, and I feel that there are many people talk about it, so it's nothing really new. What I will say first now, that there are sacred places around the world that are connected between themselves like a grid, and they are connected also deeply with the center of the earth. And on those places there are very often also very archangelic presence and very subtle energies. So I go to those places quite a lot in my life, like from I've been doing that for maybe 17 years by now. That I feel like a call to some place, and then I go there, and when I come there, I sometimes I feel this, what I have to do there. Like sometimes I have to stay there for 3 days, like coming to the same place for several times, like 3 times, until something happens. I don't know exactly what happens, but what I feel is something happens with the energy, like some interaction with my light body and my heart, and the energy of this sacred place. And yeah, I visited, for example, several sanctuaries in Greece and in Malta and Ireland in this last few years, Bosnia, Macedonia, particularly this part. In this last 5-6 years, I'm particularly drawn to the places that are connected with this, what was called before, like the place in Europe, places in Europe, and all these places were known in the also as a matriarchal temples of matriarchal societies.
And you also wrote a thesis for your doctorate, haven't you, about this theme? And
yes,
you're releasing a book, and you're also releasing a book on this theme as well.
Yes, now in December, my book will come out in the Institute of Theatre in Slovenia. And this book is about it's about the ritual theater, basically, and and it speaks about the roots of the theater. And I'm claiming in this book that the roots of theater are not in this patriarchal form of Greek tragedy that is kind of this truth is kind of accepted from the mostly from the academic world, But I'm saying in this book, proving in this book that the roots, the source of theater is in ancient mysteries, in ancient mystery schools and mysteries that and the purpose of theater was to connect with the divinity. So the main purpose of theater wasn't to entertain or to just show you the world as it is, like realistic stories, but the purpose was that people went through an initiation, and this initiation was a real experience of divinity.
Wow, that's
so
beautiful.
In this, Eleusinian mysteries are very known for this. In Eleusinian mysteries in Greece, also it's interesting that women had very important role in this way of creativity, and I think it's important to bring all this truth out now, because it's kind of it's not true that the whole history of theater is mostly done by men. It's a lot of this truth is coming out now, also in other areas. And in this book, I'm also bringing part of this, these puzzles of bringing back the dignity of feminine. And maybe I can also ask you about you were also visiting some places, like we were surprised when we heard from each other that we both feel this, we just have this feeling that we have to go to some place, and then we are just following our intuition. And so can you explain how it happens to you?
Yes, definitely. And there are also some other women that we found on the way that have actually had similar experiences. And for some reason, each of us had this desire or tinkling or prompting inside to go and visit the places. So how it happened and claim them, I sort of used to talk about them as I'm claiming them for light. Some of the places already were light. That's when I still called myself at that time a light worker. At that time, I worked with Cryon a lot. So when I first started awakening, Cryon was the being that I worked most of, that I started off with. And this is what we did. We just wandered the land. I wandered the land. I would just pack up my car for the weekend. At that time, I still had a job, and I would just go without thinking where I was going to go. I just followed the intuition. I didn't take any time. Pack up the car Friday, Saturday morning, I would go and just wherever the inner voice would take me. And sometimes it was the inner voice that took me, okay, let's stop. But everything just, let's stop here, or let's turn there, or the curiosity would take us to the places. And then we would just stop. I talk about we as a human self, and the eternal self, and all the other parts of myself, and all our non-physical beings. And it was just what I called it at the time, that it was magical time for me, because it was like I stepped into another world. The places themselves called me, and I would actually just follow kangaroo tracks or cow tracks, and just end up in these most beautiful, amazing places where you could see there were rituals held there in the past because of the way the stones were, organized. Or there would be what I call the guardians, all these rocks and beings that were, watching over these places. And at times I could even go at times for a walk to a certain place for a long time. And it wasn't until that I was ready that I actually saw that being or those beings. It's like when you have to be in the right place to perceive these things. Otherwise, they are like hidden. It's like they are in another dimension. And I know that people talk about that, about Machu Picchu, that because it was only discovered 100 years ago, and some people say because it was in another dimension. And I have actually also experienced that, and throughout all of that, nature has constantly been revealing to me in the most magical ways. I've always loved animals, but I've never realized just how magical their life is. And they don't actually allow you into that world until you are ready, until you are in that sort of energy space. And then you actually see and perceive more and more. And at times the birds would guide me, and it's not as if they would come and, sit on a branch and say, oh, look, turn left there and go right there. But it's just my interaction with them, stopping to take a photo, just would naturally guide me to these places. And then when I came to those places, I used to would put a crystal. I would put crystals all over this land, and I would sort of travel, a few hours each way. So I covered a lot of ground, and I knew I was doing some kind of grid work, and it was kind of like a mapping of landscape. But then later I realized it was actually mapping the landscape of my inner world by doing it on the outside. And I used to go and buy, because I used a lot of crystals, so I would buy necklaces and, keep the crystal, put them out in a garden for the moon and the sun to cleanse them, then carry them around with me for a bit. And then I would just sort of drop them there. It's like reclaiming the land. And after a while, I didn't have to do that anymore, because now I sort of just go to the place and I connect with it, and it's done, it's mapped. That's the best that I can actually explain. And places do call me. I would get, a few days before, images. Now I know all these places, and I would get images in my head. It's like, okay, I have to go and visit that tree. I have to go and visit that rock. And then we just head out and go. And throughout that, I had amazing experiences, funny experiences of trust, because I was on my own at times. It's quite a remote area here. And at times I could be driving for 6 hours, not meeting another car, so the energy in those places is just so pure and so quiet, and at the same time so alive and so full of life. And it took me also quite a while to get used to this landscape, because, as you know, from Slovenia, I come from alpine nature, and here I was sort of walking around in desert, and it's a completely alien landscape. But luckily I spent quite a lot of time teaching drumming in remote Aboriginal communities, and that's where I started to really connect and see the nature, their landscape in their way. And also the land here, because it hasn't been, there hasn't been wars on it and stuff. It's very pure. It's still very ready to speak. So she was also my teacher. The land actually taught me so many things. So it's alive, it's breathing, it's ancient, it has its own mysteries. And that's how it happened to me. So for me, I haven't been drawn to particular buildings or temples. I was drawn to sort of more natural ways. And just recently I realized, because in the past what I thought was, oh, I'm going to this amazing place with this pure energy, and must be some kind of vortex. But then I actually realized that it's not the place that has the energy. It's just that the place that maybe it has some kind of vortex, but it's just enables me to bring that energy through. So that amazing energy that I feel is actually me bringing it through. So the place, it's like a conductor that helps me to bring, because before, that's what changed. I used to think, okay, the place has this amazing energy, and probably has, but it just enabled me to bring, and especially the feminine energy, that has actually been so important. Because, as we all know, like you said, we've had an overbearing masculine energy presence without the balance of the feminine for centuries on this planet. So, and we're Mikael saying that we should also maybe start talking about some humor and what it's like to live and walk and breathe with having these gigantic, I call the big one, Mr. and Mrs. Giganticus, to walk the earth with us and all the humorous situations that happen with this, and all the humor that is required to actually pull this off. So would you like to comment or give some examples of how you live with your own eternal self?
Well, I would, before we go to this, I would just like to say something about this sacred spaces, because it is, so you are so lucky actually, you know, living in Australia where so much land is still untouched. It's here in Europe, you cannot really find, I mean, almost everywhere you go, it's some civilization. And I would just like to say, to tell one story that happened to me very recently. It's maybe not so humorous, but we can laugh to everything.
Yes, we can. Yes, yes, indeed.
So, what is when you said that you don't somehow, what is actually, I was wondering what is actually happening, you know, on these places, why you are called to them. And I realized that they, of course, most of them are sacred sanctuaries from ancient times. But in this thousands of years of human presence on the planet, there was so much, how to say very politely, I don't know how to say it politely, but a lot of shit, you know, gathered on this.
You don't have to be polite.
Like a lot of, for example, some very pure energies, and then some cultures brought some temples that were actually reversing the energies, not contributing to this natural flow of energies, but were
blocking it. Yes.
How did you say?
Blocking it. They were.
Yeah, blocking, using those energies for their own interest.
Yes.
And something like that, like this happened to like, I live in Ptuj, in little town in Slovenia, and in June, I mean, I never really, I felt there is so much, and so much energy covers this ancient land, you know, in our town. Like, for example, it was Roman soldiers, one of the biggest Roman town in the times of Rome. Then it was Mithraism, this very patriarchal cult. Then here was a lot of witch hunt. So a lot of things happened here on this land, and usually when some place is so covered with that kind of things, then usually this has to be really pure sacred space, because yeah, because those people are kind of drawn to it. So I just felt in this town of mine so many these heavy energies, and last June I actually realized that this place is so ancient, earth sanctuary, like a really sacred portal that goes to the center of the earth. And it's such a grace, such a beauty. I mean, it's such a pure love on this place that, but it didn't reveal to me until just recently, because these energies were so, so covered. So that's what I'm saying, that I realized that on some levels, this sacred, very sacred energies and connections are still there, but they're covered with some other layers. And so I was so happy and so blessed when I actually, could feel this sanctuary. And it's not at all, nothing is there. It's just some monastery. Actually, it is a monastery that is just near that place. So what I'm trying to say is that what I feel, that why we are doing that, and not we, but a lot of people probably, not just probably, but I heard some other people are doing this work, that we are kind of breathing probably through this cover, this
breaking through. Yes,
breaking through. That's what I feel.
Yes. Well, and this is actually the whole, as to what I understand, this whole being, it is, we are breaking through the veil, we are breaking the veil, we are breaking the walls that are actually put in place to prevent the reunion of the human and the soul self. And this is the whole part. And for me, as you were talking about this, I had images of how you're actually talking about the outside world, but it also means the inner world, because we are inside breaking through all of these walls that we've created around those energies. Because I've noticed that it's not only the outside, of course, we all know that it's a reflection of the inner world, but I was carrying those blockages. I was blocking my Mikael from being here. I was blocking Mikaela from being here. I was actually, all of these walls were put in place by me. And that is actually, in many ways, a good news, as we know, because that means that only we can break through them from the inner prisons. And at the same time, it's a bad news, because sometimes as humans we would like someone else to do it on our behalf, and there isn't anybody else that actually can break down and melt and liquefy those walls. So as I was traveling the landscape outside, so I was traveling the inner landscape and breaking those walls and entering into all of these parts of me. And I've had very strong experience with this, as to how to melt those walls, the inner prisons of beliefs. Because as everybody, when you go through the awakening process, you actually do that. You have to do that inside. You have to break free, because this is what it's all about being a free, sovereign being. What was I going to say? Okay, so these walls, my experience with them was that they actually had energies at the gates that I call gatekeepers. I started calling them gatekeepers because I've realized that as I was, let's say, within a particular wall of my own making, it could have been initiated by society, because society reinforces and teaches you to build those walls inside of yourself. But I was actually the one that built them, and I was actually the one who kept them going, who kept them strong and impenetrable. And what was actually guarding them were very, very uncomfortable energies. So, for example, what keeps people in prison is because they're walking within those rooms within those walls, in those rooms within those walls. And as soon as they actually start getting closer to the door, is when they start feeling very, very uncomfortable energies. So their spirit inside of them retreats back to the center of the room and never actually goes through those walls. So to actually go through them, into your freedom more and more and more. You have to breathe through all those uncomfortable energies, and that is sort of like very much symbolized by what you talked about, your place, when they're covered, you know, these sacred energies are covered by layers and layers of these walls, and you had to actually you probably didn't realize you worked over the years to break through those walls, and all of a sudden, as inside so outside, you actually get in touch with that pure energy that's been there all the time.
Exactly.
Is that how you?
Yeah, exactly. And what I feel that whenever I come, when I come to these places, it's like, for me, it's like me, like there is a place where there is my pure heart, you know. And then there is me here, who with these obstacles here, and then I'm approaching this pure heart. But I can, and also when I can feel this pure love, that is vibration that is within me, and it's also vibration, the original vibration from the earth, then all those boundaries, boundaries, all these things that are blocking me are kind of beginning to melt. And
yes,
always,
yes.
it's never just, I mean, it's always happening within me. I mean, it's always, I have some memories, some pains, some things, painful things that are coming up when I come to these places. So it's always about me somehow. But it's also like, yeah, it's interesting sometimes, this question, you know. It's so, now it's so cool to say, I mean, when like 10 years ago or 20 years ago, we were all kind of on our mission.
Yes,
and
yes.
Now it's the different thing is cool. Like, no, we don't have any mission. We are just enjoying life, and what it's nothing that we have to do, which is I think that somewhere in the middle is kind of true. That we had to release all this self-importance of being on a mission, or
yes, you know? Definitely, yes.
But somehow, when I think of how I work now, or how my life is now, it's kind of combined. It's totally without, oh, I have to do something, but still, when you do something, you can feel this cooperation with the earth, or other dimensions. That's, how do you experience this?
Yes, I you know, I've gone through all of the gyrations as you have as well, from, you know, a few years ago being a light work, and then letting all of that role go, letting go of the energy of, you know, the role of being an energy holder, passing, sort of not carrying all of that on my shoulders anymore. So we've and we've come a full circle, like you said, in this way, because now at the same time, I always followed my own voice. So like you as well, even, for example, you know, when, for example, if it was said, okay, don't use crystals, or don't use this at that time, I just did. I always followed my own inner promptings, rather than following sort of someone, you know, from the inside. I was a lot of the times in conflict, but it always ended up coming to, okay, you know, the whole purpose of this whole journey is to come to yourself, to listen to your own voice. And I realized that these kind of details don't even matter anymore. Like, for example, let's say with crystals, I didn't actually give them any power. I used them as tools, because they can actually, they're containers of energy, and they contain my energy, so I could map. It's not like I use them because I thought they carry some kind of power. See what I mean? So in that way, because I had this kind of relationship with them, it was not a problem. I didn't have to let them go in that, you know, in a way. For example, the same was with astrology. I can still play with that because I look at, for example, I look at astrology as in being connected with the whole world, with the whole universe, that you know, with our solar system, and it's kind of like as if you are a sailor. Like, you know, for example, I look at astrology in that way. It's good to know what the planets are doing. It's good to know what energies are around. It's like as if you are a sailor. You look at, okay, how big are the waves today? Which way is the wind blowing today? Because this is what is going to affect how you're going to maneuver your boat. So in the same way, it's not as if they control me, but being physical, I am part of this whole physical world, and this whole physical world interacts, the planets interacts, the energies interact. So in every way, everything over the years, all of this kind of, you know, I've had to re-establish my relationship and redefine my relationship with everything, with every situation. And I would listen to what other people have said, and then I would just, you know, take what worked and actually for me and made it my own, and what didn't work for me, I would let it go. And that has always brought me closer and closer and closer to my own heart, basically. And at times I wasn't spiritually, politically correct, but it didn't matter because I basically just did whatever I felt like doing. So and it has worked for me, and now, you know, we're in a place where we even do more as what we feel like doing. That's all we do, isn't it? So with this also, my relationship to this has changed, because I'm not doing it to change the world, and at the same time I am hoping to change the world, because if I want to stay here, it's part of my creation of creating the world that I want to live in, and which includes this kind of amazing energy. It includes these places. It includes every single thing talking with me, interacting with my body. Whether other people are going to enjoy that or not, I don't know. This is how we're going to see how it's going to affect everybody else. To be quite honest, I'm okay with it, how it affects them. They have to just deal with it. They have to deal with the feminine being here. You know, it's part of us. And as you were talking, I was also thinking, like, how, you know, as women, we also perceive things in a very, very different way. And it's so important that we talk about, you know, our connection with the land. I think that we are so much more immediately connected with everything, with all the things around us. And I'm not talking in a better or worse way. I'm talking that each of us are unique. And I'm also talking about that, you know, we haven't actually had our experiences being explained about, because a lot of the stories of, especially spiritual stories about the masters, are, you know, male stories. And as I said, I love our brothers, and I love to hear their stories. And at the same time, our stories and our perceptions and our way of being and our way of experiencing this journey also needs to be heard in an equal way, not as a better or worse, but as equal and unique. Diversity is a wonderful thing, and not for comparison or judgment, but we are each unique, and our stories do need to be told. And I'm glad that we have created this space, safe space, where we can actually come out in this way, you know, and be the teachers and be come out. We've always worked with these energies. It's just that it was always so hidden. We had to hide it, you know. We don't have to hide anymore. Now, other people, sort of mass consciousness, they keep doing this. They do it here as well. Like I see, you know, you have the energy flow, and they will build something right there to block the energy flow. And I think that they will continue doing this, and somehow we need to sort of navigate this world. But it is, I'm finding that, you know, I can, with all the tools, with the presence of Mikaela, yes, it is. I've never been in a better position within myself to be able to navigate You know, I still get stuck in certain places. I still can, you know, get angry at what mass consciousness are doing, or like when I feel that they are disrespecting just what I perceive sacredness of life, the flow of energy. And then I think, oh yeah, okay, and move on. You know, but still keep doing my what I feel to do. Can you relate to that?
Yeah, I feel first I can see that you have so beautiful flowers, and I also have one rose here, but
yes, oh, beautiful. You see,
I will put it somewhere so it can be seen.
How perfect, and it matches your clothes too. You see, these are heliconias. They actually grow here, so I got them from the market, and you probably have yours from your garden.
I stole it from the garden of the neighbor. Yeah.
There you go. See, it's the way to go. Oh, how beautiful! Beautiful.
Yeah, thank you.
It's gorgeous. I can smell it. I can smell it.
Oh,
yes.
It smells really nice because it's the home. It's a kind of home rose. It's not bought.
That's right. Yeah, it still has very strong scent with it, because the ones that you buy in the shop, they don't actually smell anymore.
Yeah, usually they don't. Well, what you said now, I think that is really significant because I think that what I feel is that we are kind of creating our own way how to be a feminine master, or a feminine like a feminine. We don't have these models so many, like Mary Magdalene and Mother Mary and all of those models were mostly kind of presented in a very
negative way.
Yeah, like
powerless way.
Yeah. I don't remember this English word, like when they are misused somehow, and like. So what I feel that, as you said, each of us is unique, and we are finding our own expression. What does that mean to be, to have a spiritual life or a soulful life? What does that mean for me? Many times I kind of don't really resonate with this things that are kind of spiritual or
new energy, or
I kind of always, as you said have to come to myself. What do I feel? What is my vision? What do I really want? And sometimes it's, I mean, when trying to live in that way, it's still, I mean, for years it has been, I don't want to, to be kind of complaining too much now, but the truth is that many times my ways were ridiculed.
Even within your peer community, you mean the spiritual community, or I don't know what word to use.
I'm more talking about the artistic community, for example, or for me to express as an artist in a way that I call like more feminine way. I was experiencing a lot of ignorance, a lot of ridiculing. What is she doing? I mean, what is this? This is too soft, too sweet, or something like that. And then sometimes when when this was not so sweet, that it was too much, you know, like emotionally not balanced emotionally, like always some judgments on and I feel that feminine is about being diverse, like being different, like using various ways of expression, not just being certain way, but living many of our colors. And I feel like anger is one of them also, like reacting with instinctively reacting with your gut.
Yes.
Like when you know, when you feel something is wrong, like something is not like
unacceptable.
Yeah, unacceptable.
Yeah. When
like,
you feel it unacceptable.
I don't want this, you know, not just polite, oh, everything is fine, be positive and that kind of shit. So I had recently, this last few years, so much of this, like yeah, like this things coming up like a dragon in a way of dragon, you know, like don't push down your emotions, like what you feel is feel what you feel. It doesn't mean that I will just go and, you know,
punch somebody,
somebody, but allow myself to feel whatever I feel. That's important. And then if I go and punch, this is my choice, you know, I still can do it.
That's right. If you want to then deal with the consequences, that's what you have to. I have found a very important thing with the anger. I mean, it was a big stage to start releasing the anger, and luckily I went to remote places and I have screamed my lungs out. I remember when a couple of times when I worked, I even lost a voice, and it was so funny because I had to call to work to say, I'm not coming today because I've lost a voice. And at that time, you know, talking was a big part of my job. My job didn't exist without talking. And I actually, the person that picked up the phone couldn't hear me because they thought it was someone making a joke, because here I was on the phone. Hello, Alex, I can't come to work today. You know, oh my God, it was so funny. Finally, oh, Alex, it's you. Yes, because I've screamed so much. I've screamed in the car. I've screamed. I went out, and luckily the animals just accept you. The birds just accept you. But and I've done a lot of things to express the anger. I had enormous amount of so much anger, and I think that a lot of us have, and I can see it in people's faces, because I recognize it. I saw it in my face, you know, like, I'm glad I wasn't public in the last few years. I feel for those teachers who were public, because, you know, sometimes in the morning I'd wake up, I'd look in the mirror and I'm like, who is this person? I didn't recognize all the different, you know, aspects and facets that were coming. But back to the anger, I found it very, very releasing, and behind it, there were so many emotions, very poignant emotions, very painful emotions, emotions of betrayal, how betrayed I felt as part of humanity for having, for example, let's say my femininity so downtrodden. So I felt all the betrayals I experienced as a woman living in this life, you know, even from the start of, you know, being rejected by the father because he wanted a son, to in the school, all the little, and this, I'm not talking about these from a victim point at all. It was part of my experience, and I accept responsibility that, you know, I was fully part of this. It's just as a narrative, you know, to explain what was going on. to put it into context. And yes, so there were a lot of very, very big betrayals. I had experienced enormous pain in the heart. Sometimes, like, you know, when I went through all of the integrations, like my body would just be moving in pain. And a lot of it had to do with the feminine, you know, with the feminine being so suppressed. And in each of us, and also, as I said, in the world. And yeah, anger does need, sometimes you just need to scream it out. And actually you often do. I often still now sing really loudly in my car. I've done other things, you know, beat the pillow, done some other things which I'm not going to sort of say in the public. But a very important thing about anger is when it comes, don't break your things. It's not worth it. Break someone else's things because otherwise you just have to replace them. So that's what I've learned about expressing anger. And all the other emotions. There's a lot of emotions that, like you said, were suppressed and are suppressed. And this is the thing that I often also wonder about humanity. Is like I see, you know, not all that many people go on this journey because you do really have to feel everything. You feel, you don't choose everything, but you do feel everything, don't you?
I feel part of this, in my experience, is that being in like have this spiritual and religious past, also in the past, many past lives, I was kind of trying to be good and positive and more focused on the light part of me. And so I felt like there was such a big judgment inside of me, this aspect of judging. Oh, I have this emotions. This cannot be because I'm so holy,
spiritual, you know? Yes.
Yeah, and a big part of me in this lifetime is like allowing myself to be human, like allowing myself to have all these emotions and admit to myself that I have all kinds of emotions and that it's okay. That's nothing wrong with that, and this is such a relief for me to actually, yeah, this is kind of way of loving myself, to allow myself to feel whatever I feel and not to
lie. It's basically not lying to yourself, isn't it? So it's clarity and being true to your truthful. And whether you like it or not, because it's not always even easy to know what you really feel about things, isn't it?
That's right. I mean, I needed many years to actually come to the point when I believe that I am now, that I most of the time know what I feel, and not always. But times ago, like 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, I remember myself totally not knowing what I feel. And if someone asked me, what do you want? I don't know. I was so disconnected to my feeling.
That's right. Yeah. And you had to go, I don't know, but let me check some manual or a book. And then, you know, I'll read about what I'm supposed to be feeling. And then I will tell you, isn't it?
Yeah, I wasn't maybe so much about the book, but yeah, like I said, maybe give me a few days and I will know. You know, like I needed time to actually go deep into myself and to, what do I, and then when I found out what I actually really feel, and this was not very something that was not, that other person maybe didn't like me to say. So again, then I was kind of, you know, uncomfortable saying what I feel. So and now I really feel this is such a freedom for me to be able to feel what I feel and to allow myself to what I feel, and also to express. And this is so precious to have people around me that I can actually express. And many times, or sometimes, when this very shadowy part come up, you almost feel like, oh, now this friendship will break up, because it's impossible, you know, to communicate these things. But what I feel so precious, and I'm experiencing that now several years, that even when these shadowy parts come up, that we are able to, I mean, with my friends, I'm able to speak about it so honestly from both sides, that we actually come back to the point of purity, and yeah, like to come out of this yeah, this confusion of emotions. And
you come to some kind of energy resolution, isn't it? Like you've
yeah.
It is very, very much, how can I say it? Life is so much more easier and so much more exciting now, and so much more free. Like the way in the past, the way I used to deal with, you know, like you talked about, not being able to express. I just did everything in secret, so I just became very, very secretive. You know, I sort of had a face for the public, you know, for the outside world, and then in my own time, I just actually allowed very few people in, and just did what I felt to do, because a lot of the things that I was interested in doing throughout my life were outside of what was considered the norm. So basically, I just didn't ask anybody. I just did them, and the more I did them, the more I realized it actually how good it feels for my heart, and I just kept on doing, you know. So I've sort of carved out a lot of freedoms for myself in this way already before, but as I said, it was all quite secretive. So, for example, let's say when I used to come to work and people say, "Oh, what did you do on your weekend?" I normally didn't tell them what I actually did. You know, sort of. I tried to sort of mumble something or tell them what I thought they wanted to hear, but I just didn't allow anybody in. But now it's great to actually have a lot of more people that are into these things, you know, that I used to, that like for you, they were laughed at. These things that I find precious and sacred used to be put down and laughed at, and still are by many people. So but at least now, you know, with the internet and all this communication and stuff, even though there are not that many of us, there are enough of us, and we can actually talk and support. And all these network of friendships that we have is another amazing thing that I think there is so much happening that is not really public. So now we're sort of talking about it more public, but it's this kind of conversations that we've had, let's say, for years, you know, in private, and we discuss, and with other friends as well. So I'm glad to be able to sort of do it in this way as well, and hopefully it will inspire other people also to come out with all of their little, you know, what they're up to and their perceptions and their experiences and their way of life and how they navigate. And for me, the same. I'm now much more, you know, the nice girl is gone. Like I can be a nice girl, but I just cannot keep my thing, you know, I cannot, what I feel comes out just by itself. And I've accepted that, you know, maybe that I can swear if it needs to, if that's what it needs, you know, because I used to think, oh, it's just only people of a certain kind that swear or scream or whatever, but I'm prepared to, you know, if the biggest problem the biggest issue I have is basically people are not aware of the boundaries, you know, they keep, so they're so enmeshed. So my conflict, if I can call it that, with other people is basically just to actually waken them and say, excuse me, look what you're doing, you're stepping over your boundaries into my boundaries. So that's the only really thing that I have. But walking around with Mikael around, it's actually quite wonderful, because the people's reaction is amazing, because when she's very present, she's so interested in people. So even, for example, if we're in a shop, my human self would like to just be by herself all the time. But Mikael actually likes to look at people in the eyes, likes to just be present with them, talk with them, feel them, interact with them. So, and people actually respond in amazing ways. So we go around the shops, people just do things for us. Everybody's so kind. Everybody is so friendly. It's like we have this ability to bring out the best in a person. So even was, for example, someone says, oh, that person is so aggressive and blah, 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 but we've actually, oh, really? We've just had a good laugh with them, So I don't find it challenging in that way. I found my human self was very initially concerned about this inability to withhold what you actually feel, because in a human world, it's the etiquette that matters, isn't it? Like, in this situation, you're supposed to be like this. In that situation, you're supposed to be like this. And you're constantly suppressing how you actually really feel. Or, for example, if I allow myself now to not like someone's energy, and I allow myself now to just walk away from them, regardless of what they feel. For example, if they want to interact with me, I just ignore them. I've in the past used, I've said, okay, I'm autistic, please get out of my space, or something like that. So I don't feel that I have to explain myself. I just feel that I don't have patience in that way when people sort of walk into my boundaries, and I don't feel I have to be a nice girl. And just tolerate what they want to do. And for them, I think it's a good lesson, because it sort of jerks them into awareness to, because normally they're unconscious of what they're doing. They don't realize that they're actually pushing into another person, or stepping over other people's boundaries. And it's good for people to actually start realizing, hang on a minute, this is not okay. And even if I'm the only person in the whole world that thinks it's not okay when people do this, I'm okay to say to them, no, you can't do this to me, and walk out, or sometimes I don't even say anything. I just walk away, whatever they think, who knows? But this I would never be able to do. I used to be just such a nice, friendly, okay, here I am, what do you want me to do for you? So that's what my training was. Anyway, so is that something that you can relate with?
Yeah, that's also, I can recognize myself quite a lot in this kind girl, nice girl, if I say that, yeah.
And this is where the dragon comes out, isn't it? Like, this is where the shadow and the darkness, I realized that when I've accepted all of these parts, they actually give me the ability to be able to say these things, to be able to be truthful. It's not the nice light parts that are able to do that, isn't it? It's, it's the shadowy parts that I used to suppress, the unkind, what I used to call rude. These are the parts that actually can say, hang on, you can't do this to me, And I think a lot of women are missing that, because that's why they can't actually not protect themselves, but keep their safe space, keep their space, is because they're not using these parts to say, no, you can't do this, and they allow other people to walk all over them.
Yeah, I think that for me, what made the difference, I mean, it was gradual difference, not immediately, but to be able to honor the quality of kindness, to honor the quality of lovingness of mine. And when I realized this is something valuable, then I just, then I realized I have to protect it. Like, not protect it in a way like making protections, but
stand up,
respect it. And no, if somebody is stepping into this and with not but before without respect. And my problem before was that I wasn't respecting these qualities myself. So I was just, you know, pleasing everybody, like, because I thought what I have doesn't have any value. And now this is very different, and I think this is some kind of characteristic for all people who are pleasers. That's how we are called, psychological. That is psychological term for us, pleasers. And when you learn to honor your quality of empathy and kindness, then first you have to allow all these suppressed emotions out and come out of this shadow, because we are always kind of in the shadow of other people's. So it's because kindness is not very, in our society, this is not so
respected.
Yeah, it's not so respected. It's much more respected when you are successful and all these things. Yeah. So I'm just don't we have like 3 questions there?
Oh, okay. So we have greetings and blessings from Athens, from Maria. Hello, Maria. Nice to see, nice to feel you. It's been wonderful to have you here. And we have hello from Tenerife, Amalia. Hello, Amalia, your beautiful, joyful spirit. Hello to you as well. And we do have a sort of a message from Inkeri. She says, I have also a lot of times the feeling that I'm not allowed to speak, and it has to do with that I'm not allowed to speak about my true feelings, my feminine wisdom and truth. Okay, would you like to comment on that, Romana?
Yes, so it's not just about the feelings, but it's as Ingrid, I think.
Inkeri. Ah, she says greetings from Finland.
Finland. Yes.
Yes.
I know. I think I know her, but I'm not sure if I pronounce it well. Yes, hiding our truth and our wisdom is so often. It so often happens because this is kind of a. As we talked already before, our wisdom is not, feminine wisdom is so instinctive sometimes. It's not always so nice and kind and polite. It's very deep. Sometimes it's so deep that it can frighten ourselves.
Yes, and it is a life-giving one, and it is also a life-taking energy, isn't it? So a lot of fear is connected with that.
I also have a friend who, for example, she says that she's very wise person, but with her boyfriend she doesn't speak about those things because she thinks that maybe she would scare him away, showing who she really is. And I mean, not that she's hiding who she really is, but hiding all of her facets and all of herself. And I also feel that this is not so easy to live fully your feminine wisdom in everyday life, and to rely so 100% on your intuition and on your wisdom. But for me, I feel this is the only way. Not that I'm doing that 100%, but at least being honest with myself, and more and more, and also in the relationship with my son, and in the relationship with my parents, and yeah, with friends, with other people. Yeah, but it takes time. It's not something that comes just just doesn't come. It doesn't, how would I say, it's not
It's not part of our everyday society. It's not how it works. It's not how society works. And I, like, as all of us, me too, have not spoken. As I said, I've not spoken about my truth. I did it, and the way I did it, you know, I have not married, so I had a lot of made myself. I've decided, you know, when I was little, I've decided I was going to make myself independent. So it's the path that I followed. So in many ways, it was in that way, it was easier to live my truth. It was challenging to not give in to the pressures that I was carrying inside, the voices that said, no, you should do this, you should marry, you should do a more traditional way. You know, the culture, everything was saying that. So all of us experience this feeling, and of this, we have a lot of experience of not being allowed to speak. So what I found helpful is actually to do small steps first. So for example, you know, sometimes we are afraid of losing, like you said, you know, you think, okay, so if I do speak my truth, will this person leave me? If I do speak my truth, will I lose my husband? Will I have to let my boyfriend go, or a partner, parents? And those are very scary sort of propositions. And that is why the first and foremost is also to find ways to actually connect with your eternal self, to connect with your higher being, soul, however, master self, because it's that actually allows you and carries you through, because it actually settles into those places, those voids that are left by those people. Because whether we like it or not, we do in this process to have to go. We don't have to let go of people that do not accept. If we do want to speak our voice, our truth, not everybody is going to accept that. Not everybody is willing to change. So then we come to a choice. Okay, so am I going to keep suppressing my truth for the sake of being with this person, or do I actually, am I deciding to speak my truth, and actually not having to do it, like you said, you know, straight away 100%, but just to sort of take a step. All we need to do every time is just to take a step in that direction, to make that choice and allow all of the different changes to come through. But that only happens when we are connected, or it doesn't mean that we have to be connected with our, you know, soul self the whole time, but it is that carries us through those difficult times, because we, you know, the process does involve a lot of challenges like that. So my life, it has involved a lot of letting go of people, but I found that as because I have spoken the truth, because I have decided to be true to myself, and that was all sorts. It was actually even with coming out with this show, there are a couple of people, for example, have unfriended me, and it was people that I used to communicate a lot. So it's very surprising. And then some other people, for example, when I'm writing more publicly, have surprised me. For example, my auntie who likes my things. So you never really, it's very full of surprises. You never really know what's going to happen, who's going to accept your coming out. But we do have to we do have to accept that some people may leave, and that we do have to let those people go. And you have to ask yourself, why am I not honoring myself enough to demand that the world around me hear my truth, and just let everything else go. And when you have with your soul present, you actually can go navigate through those times. But yes, definitely, we do have to let go. I would also suggest to start with small steps, because another thing is, it doesn't mean that person will leave once you start expressing yourself. They just may have to get used to your new you, and you may have to renegotiate a relationship. But just start with small things. For example, sometimes I realized in the past that I wasn't even telling people what's my favorite color for some reason. I didn't feel safe. Or what's my favorite flower, or, just a little thing. So if you start with the little things and you realize that actually people do, there's a lot of people who will accept your truth. Actually, they won't even notice. It was the fear. A lot of the fear is inside of you too. And small steps will take you to bigger steps. And before you know it, a year down the track, you look back and you think, wow, look at me now, look at me before. Here I am speaking my truth, doing things that I never knew that I was going to do. I never knew that this is going to lead me to these places, to these new people that have come into my life, because I have let those other people go.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, more for my experience is that more that I become resonating with my truth, and who I truly am, a lot of people are changing around me, but more and more I'm connecting with how would I say, similar people. It's not similar, but with people that actually can see me, like the people who can see who I am beyond this social masks and things like that. And having people like this in my life is so precious. And speaking the truth is just feels so natural. Yeah, but also, as you said, it's not always letting go people. Sometimes it's just transforming the relationship in a slow, gradual way. And yeah, and this is also how it can be done.
Yes, I know. It just constantly. You constantly have to make choices, and this is actually what I like about. And I know that a lot of women don't actually like making choices for themselves, because society has taught us to allow, society makes the choice. In a lot of cultures, women are still property of the culture, the family, so they don't really make any choices. But with you, in this way, it's constantly, you have to make a lot of choices, and then you're responsible for those choices. So whether they turn out, whether they don't turn out, I personally wouldn't have it any other way, like, just because the aliveness that I feel, the experiences that I have. And as I said, it's not the whole time. The humor that we have, Mikael and I, we laugh a lot, we play a lot. All of those inhibitions that I had as a lady, like for example, when you travel and, try to go to the toilet on a busy highway with just your car hiding you, things like that. And we just make it, I'm just talking about this because normally, especially in European etiquette, you wouldn't be doing this kind of thing. So for me, going into the wilderness actually had a lot of, I broke so many taboos, so many etiquettes. I had to sort of go out of all of these things that I was taught as to how to be, what is okay for a woman to do, for a lady to do. And it's just been a big adventure in this way. Not always fun, but we try to make it fun. And the main thing is that, you know, when something embarrassing happens, we just laugh and we move on, and that's it. You know, because the dance of human and soul, we haven't actually, the dance of human and soul, it's all about intimacy. I find it's all about relationships. So my human self, me, Alex, with this whole process, with this whole integration, I've had to let what I call Mikael, my master self, my eternal self, had to let her into all of those places that I used to close off and felt ashamed of. All of the loveless places, all of the, you know, painful places, all of the places, parts that have never in their whole life, never in their whole existence knew love. And to actually allow this other being, it almost feels like another being, but it's just another part of you, into those places. All of the feelings of shame, of propriety, of what is proper have actually, I had to throw out of the window, because this being, my soul self, knows my human self in such a way as no other human being does. And all of those parts are not, you know, they're not some movie parts. They are messy parts. They are confused parts. They are loveless parts. They are parts that felt shame. They're parts that were just used to ridicule. So now, for me, I don't really feel shame anymore. It was just such a useless, I found it such a useless emotion that stops you from actually taking those steps to freedom, because it stops you going into parts, into places of yourself that you need to go, that you need to allow your eternal self to go in, because it's the eternal self that a healing, I don't like to use the word healing because it has such, you know, different meanings to different people, but it is the presence of the eternal self that heals the wounded part automatically. It's the presence. It's why they were wounded is because of this separation. And all of these things like propriety, shame, what should and shouldn't be done, all of these are walls that prevent you from actually allowing, from opening up, because you feel, okay, I can't show this to anybody. I can't even show this to my soul. If my soul sees this grand being that I feel, they will just leave, you know, they will be ashamed of me. They will not want to do anything with me. So this is why it's actually taken such many years, because of all these things that we were taught that that we should be and do, and create walls around and not allow anybody in, you know, because in our society we just have to put all these masks on. And just talking about masks now, putting these masks on is quite fun, because, you know, you come to this place when you think, well, who am I? And I can sort of decide, okay, so when I go to this shop, I'm going to put this jolly mask on and it's me. And then when I go and talk to this person, I'll put this serious mask on and it's me. So now all of these masks have actually become fun, a game. It's like, okay, so who am I going to be today? You know, I put on this successful person, or, you know, I can put on any mask. So even masks have created a different, that's what I mean when I said, okay, you have to change relationship to everything and just let it become under your domain. It's in your sovereign domain, and you then use it as you want, you know?
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Exactly. This is the difference. You're using them by choice.
Yes.
And that makes such a difference. Then everything, then this theater that is inside of you all the time is not anymore like
it doesn't control you. It doesn't control you, and this is where your sovereignty comes. You are the master of your own domain. It's not all of these different parts, whether it's from society, whether it's your own messed up parts, isn't it?
Yeah, for me inner theater is such a beautiful metaphor of what is happening, because before for the when I was unconscious, I was
Yes.
afraid. Oh, what if this character comes up and I will not know how to deal with this?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
what if my anger comes in the time when it's not appropriate? And what if my sadness comes in the middle of some party or something, and then it's better not to go to this party? So all these things that were happening before unconsciously, now for me it's like it's more like, yeah, I'm kind of this puppet.
The director. You're the director.
Director, yeah. And I mean, it still can happen that some character jumps up, but I can kind of deal with it easier.
And it only happens for very short time, you know, whether that's a couple of days or an hour, 5 minutes. We just always come back to ourselves, you know, and that feeling of being myself is just such a gorgeous feeling, you know, like I sort of walk around in the garden just being myself, just feeling this well-being of all is well in my world. And even though, you know, it's not perfect, it's got nothing to do with perfection, it's just a pleasure of being, and a pleasure of sensing, a pleasure of just being able to stop, you know, not fall into that pressure. Okay, I have to rush and go somewhere and run and do, and I can just stop and feel the sun rays, you know, and it's just priceless.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah. All of these things I find priceless. So there is no, you know, it was challenging, but I would not have, I mean, it's just not, there's no other way possible anymore for me, is it?
Yes. This is so precious to be on this place of so much inner freedom and being able to come all over again into the place of my loving myself. Although it can happen several times in a day that I lose this connection, but still I know how to get back. And yeah, this is something that is
priceless.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then before, I think we're going to be soon sort of coming to the end of the show. So I wanted to also ask you about, you know, before we go, if you wanted to talk about the creativity, the process of creativity, and how it works for you.
For me, creativity is very much about listening to my inner rhythms, to my internal happenings, and it's about allowing it's a lot about allowing. And what I mean with that, it's like I almost never kind of plan, like I will be doing that now, or I open myself and give myself a space. For example, when I want to write something or do something, but it usually doesn't come when I want that it comes. As you know yourself. Yes. And then when for example, I take time in solitude, like for 3 days, I just devote this time for creativity. And then what I do is mostly crying, releasing all the emotions and all these stuck things that, you know, that I didn't have time to release during the month or the week. So usually first I really need to kind of release everything that's kind of stuck in me. And then when I'm again in this flow of mind, then this creativity just comes. And yeah, that's how it usually goes. That I need a lot of solitude for that, particularly when I'm doing something more complex. And nature is so important, so helpful with this, walking in the nature and having my notebook with me and writing, or being in my, many times I kind of disconnect when I am in the process of creativity. I disconnect myself from the kind of stressful situations or mass consciousness, but it's not possible always, because I have 12 years old son, and it's kind of, I'm connected with the world through him, and he has to go to school. I have to take, care of him. So, but yes, it's about allowing the space for creativity, and then being surprised.
Yeah. And I found, like, when you talked about, your son and everyday things, and I find that I'm actually now even more able to do the everyday thing, because when I am present, they actually take on a different dimension. And this embodiment has a lot to do with everyday things, with everyday little things, so my house, my place is very well looked after, it's clean, and it happens so quickly. I just do it without even worrying about it, and it's part of the sacred, this whole everyday little things. And I guess that's also what in the past was a domain of the feminine, the female. And now I'm sort of realizing that I don't have to separate. It's not, my beingness in being sacred is not about having to do some special things, even though all those amazing things do happen. But it's in everyday things, in going and doing the food shopping, going to the market, experiencing the sensuality, seeing the people, the smells, all just feeling all the beautiful produce, that is just there, all the abundance of energy, and everything becomes this kind of sensual experience. Even, I don't know, doing everyday mundane things, because in the past there was a time when I thought that I was going to have to leave, leave the earth, because I thought the mundane is going to kill me. I thought it's like a groundhog's day. I can't every day. I can't sort of live like this. How can I, they sort of come through with channels. Oh, you decided to stay. And I thought, well, how can I stay when I find life so boring? But I find that when Mikael and Mikael, when they are present with me in everyday things, we revel in it. Nothing is hard. We've done renovations, all sorts of different things. So I find that I've become much, much more practical without any effort. And everything's running. My car is running. It's all. I look after all of these mundane daily things with joy and with pleasure, rather than thinking, oh no, now I have to, So this has been a biggest turnaround for me. That this is what has changed, because otherwise I don't think I would be able to stay. If I just had to sort of look for some kind of special events out there. And with creativity also, I've sort of exploring this only more in a new way, because you've done much more work. You've lived in this way much longer than I, and I just find I just have to do a step. Like, I often don't even plan. Maybe there's an idea in my head and I get up and all these little things happen. Maybe I see some post on Facebook, or someone, send me a message or something, and one thing leads to another, and it just happens. And it's also how this show happened, didn't it? Like, it was not pre-planned. It just step by step. Okay, then we had a Skype meeting, then the idea came. Why don't, I asked Romana, then you said yes, and then it just all happens without having to worry about it. And it's like when they say, okay, you release, you do a creative part, and then you just let it out and let it do its thing. You go and do other things, you know. And this has been a big relief for my human self, because my human self used to feel so responsible for everything, you know. I was a big perfectionist. I wouldn't even start anything because I thought, oh my God, you know, all these things would go through my head. What if I'm not good enough? What if people don't like it? What if, you know? And that actually stopped me from doing so many things. While now, I just say, dear Michael, if nobody likes what we create, it's your problem, but we're going to do it anyway. You know, so we just put things out there, and you know, we go to the beach and we forget about it, and we enjoy the beach and come back and see, and it's fine. You know, there has been times when nobody has liked, and it was fine with my human self. My human self didn't go into any depression or anything. It's like, oh, okay, they didn't like this. Okay, we'll try something else, you know. And this is such a lightness of being, and such an easy way to do things, because you can then allow yourself to be imperfect, to make mistakes, to just create for the sake of creating. And whether, you know, and that has to do not just with like traditionally creative stuff, like, you know, painting, you know, theater, whatever, but just everyday life. It is so freeing to be able to make mistakes. And to be able to also be the only person that maybe likes something and still like it and still go for it, you know, if nobody else is doing it, if nobody else likes it. So this has been another freedom. And also another sort of freedom that I've been using for a very, very long time is just turning things, looking at what people say and turning them upside down, if you will. For example, let's say, you know how in the past, you know, you had to sort of consult books or, you know, traditions or cultures, for example, how a woman, for example, should be. But I sort of say is that what I do is how a woman should be, because I'm a woman, so I add to the womanhood. So whatever I do is what women do. It's not that I have to look somewhere outside. What do women do, or what do men do, or what do people do? And it's not just about women. What do people do? So it's like whatever I do is what women do. So it's a very, very kind of these little kind of distinctions, and putting things upside down is that actually brings a lot of freedom into everyday life, I find.
Yeah, wonderful. You said so wonderful. Yeah, exactly. We are creating this new templates of how things are, and also how relationships are, and how friendships are, how women is, how man is. I mean, there are so many stereotypes that we are kind of, and also now when in this spiritual world, how would I say, it's also another, always some other things other things coming, like you should what is appropriate and what is not appropriate, and at some point you just get tired of all of that and just begin to live, isn't that?
That's right. Yes, yeah. And not even wonder, like, you know, we're talking about these things right now, but throughout my day, my life is very simple, like the way I think. I've simplified, so I don't even wonder about this anymore. Is it right or is it appropriate? These things don't even come. It's like, is it going to be joyful? Is it something I want to do? You know, I think about what the birds are doing. Oh, look at that beautiful flower in the garden, it's blooming. Oh wow, the sky is gorgeous. Oh, look at these people, they're laughing, the kids out there playing. You know, these are the kind of things that now, because I have been very tough with things, I have said no to so many things that society has said, this is what I should listen, this is what I should participate in, this is what I should think important. You know, for example, let's say if you have TV is very happy to tell you what is important, what you should think important. Since I don't listen to radio or TV, I decide what is important to me. You know, I decide what is important news to me, what is an important value to me, and I follow that. You know, I spend time doing things that are important to me, and this is where also, but also all of these things are only possible because I am allowing my grander self, eternal self, master self to be part of my life, because the human self cannot create this, because the human self lives within walls, limited walls, and fear. And it's only the presence and this constant this well that you establish, of this well of energy, that brings the abundance, that brings the possibility, the options, that you can actually create a life like this. You can't create, as just a human, you cannot create a life like this. You can try, you know, and you sort of go, which I have tried very hard and it hasn't worked. And I have, you know, I have created money in the past. I have created adventure. I've created all these things, you know, even, you know, I was known like all of these things that society said, oh, if you do this, you're going to be happy, or you're going to feel good about yourself. It didn't work. It's only allowing of your soul self that can actually create this kind of life, that can actually enable you to live, to make these kind of choices.
Yeah. I agree with you, and I don't have any name for my soul. I don't even know soul master. I mean, this is kind of a little bit but what I feel, the presence of a presence, and this presence makes me so much more, so much more joyful, so much more wide, and makes my life more colorful. And as you said so beautifully before, senses become more alive. You can touch, see, smell, the nature is so much more vivid, and life is so much more vivid. And yeah, this presence of I don't even know how to call it. I just say, you know, it's I just know when it's there and when it's
that's there. Right, yeah. And it doesn't even need names. I mean, we define and talk about these, just let's say because we are on air, and you know, we do, if we're talking with people, we do need words. But in like you said, for me during the day, you know, everyday life, I don't even think or define or it's just, you just live it, you just live it, and you dance, and you constantly discover more. This is one of the little things that is actually the human self finds quite annoying, is because the souls, whatever the word is, let's say the grander part, Mikael, Michaela, always wants to expand. Is never happy to be in the same place for a very long time. And the human self likes the habits, likes to do things a little bit over and over and over again. So these are the kind of little, it's not even a conflict, but you can see there are different unique parts of yourself that you have to dance around and find ways to work with that. Because, and then this is where the human self always finds herself at the precipice all the time, where she has to step into the unknown. So she stepped into the unknown all the time. So these are some of the things that you have to just how can I say, include as part of your new life. And one of these is just this, that you will always be, as a human self, you will always be asked to step into the new, where you've never been before, where the eternal self hasn't been before. The eternal self now is in the new area. Like what we're creating is completely new. It's not been done before, you know, in this long-term way. So eternal self has no clue, but eternal self doesn't care. Just wants to experience something new, wants to expand, wants to grow. And the human self just needs to find ways to be okay with this kind of way of being. Be okay to be around part of yourself that constantly expands and constantly wants to go into the unknown, into untried, the uncomfortable, the uncharted, and whether it's uncharted by you or by the whole humanity, it doesn't matter. You know, it's the same whether you personally have never done something before or whether nobody's done it. It's beside the point. You know, the main thing is you have to keep expanding, and once the human self is okay with that, and trust builds enough trust, and you know, to trust that, okay, I'm gonna step into this precipice, there's no ground, but I know I've got wings and I can fly, you know, it takes a lot of trust, and this is where the work is, isn't it, to build this kind of relationship and rapport between the soul self and the human self. And it's also very beautiful and a lot of fun.
You are such an inspiration for me, Alex.
And as are you, you're so radiating the beauty and this gentleness and this gentleness and this, you're just, when you smile, oh my God, you're beautiful.
Oh, thank you, thank you. But when I listen to you, you all, I mean, whenever conversations we have, you give me so much ideas, you know, how life can be even more, yeah, like now when you said this, that the master self actually wants to also experience something through a human. So you don't think that our soul already, so you don't think that our soul have a kasama, like plan or something? No.
And we're beyond plans or anything. I mean, plan is always to expand and experience into the new, and to experience more freedom, to experience more joy, to blend, to dance, to participate in life. That's the plan behind plan. But the soul, Mikael is also in this way out completely in the new territory, because all she's asking is just allow me deeper and deeper and deeper, and that's what we're doing. We're just allowing more and more and more, and we allow, you know, and this is how the process happens. I human self allow, and Mikael comes deeper, and then in a week's time, okay, let's go deeper. You know, it is just a constant dance in this way, and it is a new territory for Mikael, because Mikael has not experienced, none of our eternal selves have experienced this kind of deep presence of spirit in matter. So how it's going to be, and how the rest of humanity reacts, that's all, it's unknown, you know. So even I know none of this is known. There are lots of potentials, and it is also how our eternal selves like to be like that, because they don't want, who wants everything to be known? It's the excitement of life, excitement of being, is to keep learning, to keep expanding. So, you know, it's not, for them it's completely new also, this dance of human, and because they didn't know, they also didn't know, is the humanity going to continue beyond 2000? How long each of us are going to stay? Is this embodiment going to work? Will we be able to find ways to live alongside so much of humanity still being within the prison? You know, how are we going to navigate through that? How are we going to find livelihood? How are we going to be able to be expressive in this way, to be able to just say what we feel, because that's how we want to be, and still live within humanity that is bound with all those norms? So it's actually quite exciting when you look at it from this way, because we have no idea. I mean, there are potentials, you know, there are potentials, and they can look at the energy and say, okay, yeah, it looks like it's going this way, the energy, but it can change today, it can change tomorrow by wild cards or whatever, you know, other words people use for these things. And it's what is so exciting for everyone. But I think we're now 4 minutes past the 2 hours. I think, Romana, we'll have to I will have to say goodbye to everybody. Thank you to the attendees and everybody that you've stayed with us, for your patience, and we feel your energy. I definitely feel your energy and presence, and I'm just so grateful for everybody, to you, Romana, and to all the participants. And yeah, you go.
Yeah, you just go say what you wanted to say something.
I also want to say that we, Mikael, we are rejoicing in this dance, and we are so grateful to all of you. And we, Michaela, are so grateful to all of you that you have accepted us, and that you are accepting us, and that you are courageous to dance with us as a feminine who is coming to dance and be present on this beautiful planet called Earth. And we say goodbye to you for now, but we will be back. We are here.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
You go. Yeah, you go, Romana. You go.
No, you go. You wanted to say something.
I've said everything. Like yes.
Okay.
I've said yes.
So I would also like to thank all of our guests who had patience to listen till the end. And I would like to thank you, Alex and Michaela and Mikael, for such a beautiful dance. I enjoyed a lot, and my human is my human is kind of even more scared now to see what the possibilities are. Shaking like, oh, new challenge.
Join the club. Join the club. How many times my human self, Alex, shakes to the bottom of her heart, and then she still takes that step forward because she's just so mesmerized. It is. It's just part of it, you know. That's right. It's part. It's the whole part. You just take that step. Keep taking that step.
So congratulations for taking that step. Congratulations to your human who did that
step.
Taking this step, I mean, making this show.
And thank you.
Yes, and creating this, and I really wish a lot of more of conversations to happen in this.
Yes, this is just the beginning, and I feel that we will all of us create much more and interact much more, and who knows how, you know, well, like I'm very open to developing, and I'll just go with it, and who knows where it's gonna go. But I'm very excited about it, and thank you everybody, and we say goodbye. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye bye.